I'm going to stay on stage for just 1 second to let you know about the next panel, which goes back to how do we actually get to this tokenized world. Like we talked a bit about what's there, what's coming, and perhaps where it's headed. But now we're going to specifically turn to how to get there and whether we'll get there and if we're ready for it. So inviting on stage the moderator, Eddie Nuta, Tomasz Medved, the Strategic Partnerships Senior Associate at Bitstamp, and of course, Benny is doing a triple shift. Benny Miminku.
So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the second panel of the day already. My name is Eddie Nuta, and I'm CEO and founder for Valid Blocks, xSafe, and CTO for Inspire. And we have here with us Tomasz Medved, who is a Strategic Partnerships Associate at Bitstamp. And I will let him tell us something about himself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm part of the strategic partnership team at Bitstamp. If some of you don't know, Bitstamp is a centralized exchange situated in Europe. And yeah, I've been with the company for 7 years, went through a lot of ups and downs through the years, and yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. The second panelist is someone who you probably already know. He's known for his contribution on Multiverse X, and his visionary approach will help us understand more of the infrastructure and innovative needs to reach this fully tokenized world. So the title of the panel is, Are we heading towards a fully tokenized world? And I thought of spreading this conversation in 4 separate parts. The first part is actually defining what does a fully tokenized world look like. So I'm going to start with Benjamin. And the question is, what does a fully tokenized world mean to you? And how does Multiverse X envision tokenized assets integrating into daily life?
So I'll mention something that's interesting and funny. You generally look at Bitstamp, for instance, and it's one of the first exchanges launched in Europe, and it's very rare that exchanges survive for actually so long a time. So really great to see you here, and even greater to see Bitstamp alive and kicking, making progress on many, many fields. I'm looking at a lot of things, and I think in some sense, the ultimate bandwidth limitation that we always hit when we think about these new technologies is psychology, human psychology and not technology. So we fix the technology part, you get the products in place, you get the infrastructure, but at the end of the day, it's humans who either get it or don't get it, and then this is why we need to overinvest in education, in explaining things, and it's usually that we underprice this type of thing. You generally overprice that someone builds a hardcore architecture that it works, and you don't put as much value on explaining or compressing the explanation on what works. And so I do think that a world that will be tokenized is just a world where, in a similar way to how you use Uber right now, and you get outside, you open the app, and some car takes you, and then in 1 or 2 years or 3 years, you'll get a car that is without a driver, and that will just take you everywhere. This is how you'll interact with assets. You'll just get your app out, whatever you're using will be also digitalized, so you'll have a derivative of that. You'll get some yield for that. You'll know at every moment in time how much that is worth, and that how much it creates for you while you're using it. When you have that, the world will be significantly more effective, in all the assets it has, but then also accessibility to people that don't necessarily have something. So this is just 2 cents that I think are not very far in the future. Once you think about that, you immediately see that it's super wasteful and stupid that we don't have the assets like that are stupid assets, not intelligent assets. So yeah, hope this adds.
Thank you for that vision. So follow-up question for Thomas. Like seeing this innovative and bright future world with everything tokenized, from Bitstamp's perspective, what benefits or risks do you see arising as we move towards complete asset tokenization? And also, do you see a timeline for this to become mainstream?
Yeah. So from a Bitstamp perspective, the main benefit is that we can give those assets venue and offer liquidity and options to trade on those assets. Bitstamp also recently obtained a MiFID license, so we'll be able to offer perpetuals, futures, options on our exchange, and going down the line, using those real-world assets as collateral, for example, and you'll be able to trade cryptocurrencies while using RWAs as collateral. So the main obstacles right now are still regulation, just streamlining the whole regulatory process across EU and, of course, the world. Different, regulatory practices are challenging for us, but with the new license obtained and getting ready for MiCA and already, let's say, being prepared for it, we are just trying to get more clarity across EU and how, with different jurisdictions, we'll be able to tackle those RWAs. So,
thank you for that. Right, we're moving straight to part number 2, which is infrastructure to support full tokenization. We already have projects building, like Benjamin said, the Uber, the Airbnb. We have Globis here with us today. So we already have these projects building, but given the supporting fully tokenized world requires robust infrastructure, I would like to know what are the immediate and long-term needs for blockchain platforms to support full world tokenization. And also, do you see solutions like Chainlink CCIP or multiverse sovereign chains, right, play an important role in creating secure and, of course, interoperable systems?
Yeah, so I do think that there will be many smaller pieces that will need to iterate on to build in different environments, because there's not a solution that fits everyone. Of course, the institutional side, for instance, has very specific, very different demand. The regulatory side and governmental side has, again, very specific and very different demands. And then the user side comes with a completely different lens. So everything needs to exist to start this flywheel, because there has been a lot of discussion on tokenizing real-world assets, and some things have been happening. There's a lot of value, but it's always a question of how do you start this flywheel. Once you have started the flywheel, then a lot of people understand what's the benefit. They can test and validate if this works for them, and a lot of improvements come once you start this flywheel. So, of course, having the blockchain layer is one thing. A lot of energy will be spent during the, let's say, immediate future on regulation. So that will be super intensive just for people to understand, especially in Europe. But then, even though we say that we have some things, for instance, what Thomas was mentioning, having the liquidity part, having the party where you can list assets, when you can get the counterparty to buy, to lend you against those, and so forth, that's also very, very significant. and very challenging at first, because that's a market. So you need to make a new market with several parties and so forth. And then I do believe that for users, it probably needs to be the same simplicity as buying meme coins. Just to make it relevant, especially to the crypto people, but outside the crypto space. Because if it's not that simple, they will not do it. Comparatively, it will be so high a hassle that no one will do it. Whereas for the institutionals, of course, this is a completely different lens. It's like you don't speak the same language. The same thing that would get one person excited would get the other person very scared because it means risk and so forth. So maybe we'll let Thomas add a bit on how he sees this.
Right, like what changes do you think Bitstamp will have to make to support the massive tokenization of traditional assets?
Yeah.
And we're talking about regulations in the next step, because you're bringing up regulations. We have a special part for that.
Yeah. Okay. Setting aside regulations.
Regulations, right.
Yeah, finding the right projects to work with, finding the right issuers, working with market makers to provide the liquidity itself, and yeah, just offer this to both our institutional clients and to retail clients, bringing this to the masses, so to say. But in terms of infrastructure itself, Bitstamp won't really need to make that many changes. We will support the chains that we support now, add a few more, but we'll work with partners to build all of this. We won't be building this ourselves, so we'll be cooperating with others, with issuers, and then bring the assets on-chain and to our clients, both on the retail side and, of course, institutional side.
That sounds exciting. I see a further partnership with MultiverseX. Great partner to have on board.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the third part, which is navigating regulation for full tokenization. Now, this is a very sensitive subject, right? We have MiCA coming up. So I'm going to have a question for both of you, the same question. Some of the most significant regulatory obstacles and solutions in Europe.
Maybe we'll let you first, and
okay.
Please.
Yeah, so from Bitstamp's perspective, how we are going to tackle this is through, of course, complying with MiCA, but on top of that, built on our MiFID license that we obtained just last week. So we're going to go for the expanded MiFID license, and hopefully by the end of next year, we'll be able to offer tokenized securities. And this way we'll be, going into the RW space this way. So I think this is the main thing that we need to overcome and find the right solutions, of course, taking into consideration the MiFID license and, also in the same space offer derivatives, so perpetuals, including RWAs. And like I mentioned previously, using RWAs as collateral. I think that's a very important step to take if we want to make this space viable, at least in the EU. So.
Look, I'm going to be very honest. For builders, at first, this is going to be very painful. Just because people generally are not used to paying this much attention in the early stage of a startup to regulation. Like, you have only so many resources, so much energy. Usually it goes in a very different direction, and you deal with the regulatory part on the fly. Of course, if it doesn't work out, then you're dead. So you're going to deal with much more of the regulatory side. But what I'm saying here is that starting to need a license for any startup that has to do, for instance, with financial services, that touches user funds or even is decentralized is going to be very tricky and very tough. So understanding what are the implications for the different startups, understanding how this applies to your particular startup if you're building something is very crucial. At first, this will feel a bit suffocating. You'll wish this would not happen and all of that, but since that cannot be changed, you're better off using everything you can to understand this very early, to act on it, to be compliant, and play this game where this can be the edge. Since most of the people will not be able to move fast and will have a very difficult time. Understanding this type of regulatory aspect and how this applies to the different startups that exist within our ecosystem or in the broader space, that will be almost a personal challenge that founders should take, because once you understand that, for instance, it doesn't have an incidence or it doesn't apply to you, doesn't restrict you, then you're great. If it does apply to you, again, you need to understand the specifics, the requirements, and to make sure that you do whatever it takes for you to not only do that, but understand the end goal. The end goal is you don't just want to be, let's say, compliant. You want to make a business work. You want to win in the market. So you want to do this. This is necessary, but focusing on how you can really thrive in this market and what the edge can be, that's something important to think about. While most of the people will struggle and will be in denial and will just complain about all these things that are happening, taking the proactive approach and running with it, I think will be very important for founders and businesses and startups.
Thank you for that. I can totally relate to this, and this will be a great challenge for new startups and also existing startups, because I remember watching this in a podcast I watched lately. It's called the Full Chart Podcast. Maybe you've heard of it, about the challenges of even Multiverse X at startup, right? Where you try to be compliant, where you do your best to make things the right way, and still you almost die once, twice, 3 times. So I think partnerships will be very important, and finding the right people, not jackals, not people that are out to get your money and not give you the right service. So important partnerships, I think, are a crucial point for startups, finding the right partners for compliance regulatory. So thank you for that.
I will just double click on what you're saying, because AI is one of the best partners you can get.
Open AI or closed AI?
Yeah, open AI, indeed. But then also we're working really great with some people, and I'll double click on this. Both Deloitte generally and PwC are people that you can essentially skip 10 steps with, just because you don't make all the mistakes possible. So ideally, if you compress the mistakes and you do 1-2 mistakes, but not too many, to not survive, that's really great. And then also on the exchanges side, it's always worth it to look and study people that have survived several cycles, have gone through the difficult challenges and so forth, and learn some things that you can learn and see how you can collaborate. So great to look at Bitstamp, and actually quite curious how it will play the game, given all the changes that are coming in Europe.
Huge opportunity for you guys. Right, so we've looked at what a tokenized world looks like. We've looked at the infrastructure that we need to support this tokenized world. We've also tackled the regulatory needs to be compliant in this tokenized world. And the final one would be, what is the path to full tokenization? How do you envision it? Like, looking at the future, how do you see it shaping the economy, or what milestones should we look for to say, we are here, we're heading in the right direction, we're heading towards a full world tokenization?
I'll let maybe Thomas first.
Yeah. So for companies to exploit this is finding the right venue where they can launch or just put their assets on chain, and then finding the right partners, the right exchanges that can offer the access to the general market, and then just, let's say, having, let's say, traditional companies diving into this space, tokenizing commodities in a more practical manner, tokenizing real estate or energy sector and so on, and then bringing all of this to regulated venues such as Bitstamp and go from there. So when traditional financial institutions will start to get involved, hopefully we'll be far enough ahead that we'll still be able to maintain our competitive advantage in this space. But yeah, once you see traditional financial institutions getting into RWAs on a more larger scale, then you know that we've made it. So yeah.
Okay, so a good milestone is look out for traditional players coming into this into this space. So
yeah,
maybe, Benjamin, can you answer the second part of the question? How do you see it shaping the economy or shaping the entire world?
So I think this kind of progress is always non-linear. It always looks in hindsight a certain way, but when it happens very counterintuitively. And people generally at scale need a great, compelling reason that speaks to their interests to really make the transition. And I think that this reason will be the same of what, let's say, cryptocurrencies have experienced, and then meme coins have experienced, and so forth. So someone tokenizing their asset and making it significantly more valuable. Once people understand that, that speaks in a way like 1,000 presentations, 1,000 case studies, 1,000 use cases. It will just signal to them that if they don't race to do that, they'll lose out. And it's one thing to think about what you can gain and say, hey, if you do this, you'll gain this and that. But humans tend to value much more what they can lose. So it's very strange, but if people think, so for this house that is worth 1 million, I can get 1.5, and I'm essentially losing 500K of the value of this asset. This is just the simplest example. I'll definitely not want to lose that. If you tell me, hey, you might gain this, I'm going to look skeptically. Is that really so? Am I not losing that money somehow, and so forth? But if you're telling me that this is my money and that I'm losing it, then I want to fight with someone and take my money back and so forth. And I think this applies very well here, for instance, in Germany or in very advanced economies, because very advanced economies are very conservative. Most of the things work. You don't have really big gaps and so forth. And precisely because of that, you're very conservative. You want to make small changes and so forth. But what you discover is not that they'll not make new bets on completely new things and, let's say, go all in. They'll definitely not make that. But if you tell them that they're losing half of their asset value because it's not digitalized, because it's analog, because it just sits somewhere and it doesn't tap the market, that will work magic on helping them understand. So I think getting to this first big win is almost going to be the single most important thing that people will remember. Once that is clear, then it will be everyone racing as if this were the most obvious thing in the world. So what's that win? That's an important question. For instance, tokenized securities have been a discussion for a very long time, but it's precisely because there has not been a good market, a good, let's say, Binance, but just for tokenized security. If you have that and people can make some money on it, then the story will be told very naturally, like mouth to mouth, through the friends on how they're making money, how this changes their game, and all of that. So I almost think 90% of the conversation boils down to that one big win. Afterwards, it will be a different phase that people will be largely convinced of and will just race to find the simplest, most efficient way and secure way to doing that.
What basically you're describing here is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. I stand to lose this, and I should act on this. I remember over 7 years ago getting into crypto. I tokenized my first euros, right, into cryptocurrency. So fear of missing out on these traditional players is probably a sign to look at. Right. So I would maybe ask for a short answer on this one. A prediction of when will this happen? When the total market cap of RWA will eclipse the total market value and reshape all these. Just a short answer of when. It's a prediction market here. I'm going to place a bet with your answers.
Okay. I would say like 10 years plus to achieve to, let's say, overcome the total market cap of the current assets that we have on chain. So yeah, it will take a long time. At least that's my prediction.
So how many years?
10 plus.
10 plus.
I feel
10 plus.
I feel you have a very different opinion on this one.
Yes.
Place your bets, people.
So I think I'm not the let's say best predictor on these things. It seems I live a bit in a different world, and I see things a bit differently, and maybe most of the world is not very similar to how I see them. So with that caveat in mind, I'd say a good milestone of, let's say, the market cap of cryptocurrencies being exceeded by the general total value of real-world assets could be something like 3 to 5 years, but that's very much dependent on this first win and AI agent. So if tomorrow we have a really great use case where we see the win, this will be the best tailwind for everyone. But then I also think people will not care so much, even though it sounds good. This will not be the most important acceleration point for them. The fact that they're making some more money, they have so much money, okay, it's nice, but it will not change too much for a lot of people, even large institutions. But the fact that these tokenized assets will be native to AI agents, and agents are just around the corner and will change a lot of this game, I think makes the conversation a lot more interesting and exciting, because it might accelerate this first win, because it might make it super simple for people to discuss with someone. Imagine that you have your personal agent, he tells you everything about the market, how you can lend your house, make double on it, lose it all, move in a trailer, buy some meme coins and all of that. So that's maybe 3 to 5 years would be definitely. 10 years, I think it would be very pessimistic. In 10 years, it almost seems everything can happen.
Let's say conservative, right? He's always talking from the business point of view.
Institutionals, I understand. Institutionals, in any case, need to be moving very carefully because it's a different play. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes our panel. I think we've answered the question. Yes, we are heading towards a fully tokenized world. So thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, guys.